Hey, and welcome to the Neurodivergent Musician Podcast, where I explore the world of neurodiversity and musicianship. I'm your host, John Hart, along with Sabai, my Martin guitar, and today I'll be talking about rejection sensitive dysphoria, or RSD, in neurodivergent musicians, which is often overlooked in the music industry. Each episode is broken up into a Traffic format where I'll share insights in the red section, improvised babble in the amber, and recommendations you might find handy in the green. RSD is a common phenomenon experienced by numerous neurodivergent individuals, posing particular challenges in the creative arts where rejection and criticism are prevalent. In this episode, we delve deeper into RSD, examining its impact on neurodivergent musicians and exploring effective strategies for its management along with my experiences. So, Dr. William Dodson coined the term rejection-sensitive dysphoria to describe the intense emotional distress experienced by many neurodivergent individuals when they perceive rejection or criticism. Often manifesting as a physical sensation in the chest or stomach, RSD can be triggered by a seemingly minor incident like a perceived change in tone or facial expression. This emotional pain can be overwhelming and may result in avoidance of situations where rejection or criticism is likely. In the music industry, rejection and criticism are daily occurrences. Negative reviews, failed auditions, and cancelled gigs are just a few examples of the potential triggers for perceived rejection. For neurodivergent musicians, this constant exposure can pose unique challenges as we may be more sensitive to criticism and rejection. RSD amplifies these difficulties, making it harder for us to put ourselves out there and leading to feelings of worthlessness and despair. Despite the hardships, there are strategies that can help us manage RSD. One crucial approach is to establish a supportive network of people who understand our experiences and can provide emotional solace when needed. By surrounding ourselves with understanding and empathetic individuals, we create a safe space to express our feelings and seek guidance. And additionally, it is vital to be mindful of our own self-talk and challenge negative thoughts as they arise. Engaging in positive affirmations and reframing our perspectives can be empowering and help combat the negative impact of RSD. Moreover, developing coping mechanisms tailored to our needs can significantly enhance our emotional regulation. Techniques like deep breathing exercises, meditation, or engaging in creative outlets can help us navigate moments of heightened sensitivity and emotional distress. Regular practice of these coping strategies can provide a sense of stability and inner peace, enabling us to better manage the impact of perceived rejection and criticism. It's important to remember that rejection-sensitive dysphoria, while challenging, does not have to be faced alone. Together, we can build a supportive community that understands and validates our experiences. By cultivating a network of understanding individuals, challenging negative self-talk, and developing effective coping strategies, we can learn to manage our emotional responses to perceived rejection and criticism. It is essential to remind ourselves that our worth as musicians is not defined by the opinions of others. We are not alone on this journey, and with resilience and self-compassion, we can continue to create and thrive in the face of adversity. So that is it for the insight section. We're now going to go into the improvised babble in the amber. See you then. Okay, so we're now into the amber section and talking about RSD. And it just feels like it's a 24/7 thing. And I've talked to a lot of other musicians, a lot of people in the creative arts, and especially neurodivergent musicians. We have this feeling all the time that as soon as we are on the cusp of failure or, rejection, or, it could be anything, I sort of myself feels like all my insides are starting to twist and all my symptoms are starting to heighten. And I feel like, not that there's a noose around my neck, but there's sort of this struggle to breathe. And, back in the sort of old school day, it'd be like, oh, just keep calm, carry on, that's just part of it and things as well. But that is part of the struggle. And RSD can be one of those where if you can't get on top of it and if you can't unlock it, then there's no way you're going to be able to progress in your career. And we try and jump on opportunities as best as we can. I say I've got to talk about me, really, because not everyone feels like that. By the way, I've sort of lost my voice, so that's why I sound very low at the moment. I do like it when it gets this low. Anyway, so with RSD, it can happen in so many different areas. So when you're trying to book shows, and it could be the first stage where you send out multiple emails, no one gets back to you and everyone's busy, but then you have that sort of RSD where you're just like, right, this is not going to happen. And then the next phase is you get booked, but then you've got to then do ticket sales, and then you don't sell any tickets, so you feel rejected. And then the next thing is when you do the show and no one responds, you feel rejected. Then you go up to the merch stand, no one supports you or buys anything. And it's not that expectation, but I just think it's a sense that you just want some momentum, and you don't want to constantly feel like you're facing these hurdles all the time. And you see some other musicians have had some luck along the way. Now, luck is created out of sheer hard work, and then you get yourself to that point, and then when you drop something and it does, propel your career. I have a lot of respect for those musicians who have done all the hard work, and then when they've had a viral video or they had this opportunity or whatever, they've blown up overnight, and then they've carried on their careers. But for others who haven't done anything and then they just get it, it's really hard. And you're just, this is not a victim thing. This is just part of the game of having a music career. And part of the game of music career is rejection, failure, criticism. And that's why a lot of musicians don't last. Or with their careers, they go into something else because that's where they're going to get the money, and that's how they're going to be able to support their family or themselves. So when it comes to this, though, that is what I was just talking about just now, was, with gigs. And then you have other things where, it could be teaching. So when I'm teaching, I'd like to have my pupils meet me halfway. And when they don't meet me halfway and they turn up, one, they turn up late. Two, this is not all of them, this is maybe select few. They turn up late. They don't bring any books. They don't bring any enthusiasm or motivation. They blatantly tell me that they've done no practice. And this is something that I absolutely love. This is not just, a tool that I'm learning and teaching. This is something that is seeped into my veins in regards to guitar. So when I see others just not have that love, no, I know there's a realistic expectation and not all have that. And maybe a lot of pupils have a lot of other things going on, so they can't really use all of their energy and time for that. But I'm aware of it, but it just feels like it's a rejection of this kind of, it's a rejection to me. It's like you're turning up and you're bringing 10% to the circle here, and I immediately just go inward and I'm like, obviously I get paid and I want to do my best with it. But if someone brings 10% and then you've got to then bring 90%, it's just like, this doesn't work. And it's not monetary for me. I really want to transform, guitarists' lives. And, I've had other things as well when people tell me, oh, I don't have the time and I don't have this and I don't have this. And I get it. Life is super busy and it throws so many crazy things. But again, I can't handle that rejection. I really take it. I try and not take business stuff personally, but it's so hard when you've got RSD and it's connected. And so that can be in a teaching setting, and then you can have a recording setting where you can have that self-criticism when you're just not getting the take. You're not just doing this, so you're beating yourself up. And then you don't really know what the producer's saying. You don't know what other people are going to say. And you're making all of these things up in your head. And it's even like conversations. I sort of feel like the last two conversations I've had with John Gomm and John Shortell, we are neurodivergents talking to each other, and we apologize for talking over each other and cutting each other up. But I immediately gave them permission just to be themselves, and they completely relaxed, and we allowed ourselves to talk over each other. And then that's where things can really blossom and bloom without this feeling that you can tell by someone's tone, you can tell by someone's body language, you can tell by whatever you are saying or doing is rubbing that person up the wrong way. And that other person's not allowing you to be yourself. So you're already on the back foot coming into any conversation. And living in a neurotypical world, you will have that. And there is a stigma, I think, like I said with John Shortell, with ADHD, with other things, more ADHD than the others, like dyslexia and autism nowadays, because it feels like it's a buzzword or a trend or anything as well, when actually the science has been there for, hundreds of years, that this is a real thing, and there's data and there's all sorts of things to back it up, and a lot of people suffer from it. But stigma can trigger the RSD. When you go and get turned down for this in the music industry, you can be resilient and you can, really, really work hard in so many areas. And that tenacity, which I've told I've got, that I'm trying to solve a problem, but I can't. I tried one angle and it's not working and I'm beating myself up. And then I'm like, right, I jump ship and I go and try another angle. And this is where I can rack up massive amount of debt or whatever it is, because I'm trying to buy things that can, help me solve the mystery of, at the moment, my mystery is trying to recruit for my acoustic guitar course, because I feel like I can transform guitarists' lives, but I just have that RSD and I can talk to people about it. But when I then go, oh, do you want to come onto my course? And they're like, no, it's like immediate, oh, shut down. Whereas most of those conversations should be natural. It should be authentic. And I just haven't learned that yet. And I don't like sales. I don't like sales techniques and sales conversations. And you need to be a salesman sometimes to have a music career, because if you're at a show and then you want to go and sell your merch, some people, if they go, no, I would shut down. I'd be like, all right, okay, and I'll move on. Whereas my wife or someone else, they've got inbuilt small talk. They can talk about different things. They'd be like, they can ask them again, are you sure this has got this feature, this benefit, da 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 da. And that's kind of why I can't do the confrontation thing. I'm not very good in person with that side. I'm very good at talking and chatting to people when I get into a flow, but I worry that I'm monologuing or jabbering, as I've been told I do. And those sort of things as well, monologuing, jabbering, talking too much, impulsively doing this, hyper-focusing, blah, 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 blah. All the symptoms, if they're picked out on, that's immediate failure, because I'm completely aware that I'm doing these things because of my neurodivergent brain. And I'm not trying to be a victim. I'm just trying to be aware of it. But then I'm already got internal chaos, and I'm already like, I don't mean to beat myself up, but if I drop the ball and I fail, and it's, it's clearly like I've left a we've got two bunnies, and we have a box that goes over, to the garden and things. And that's where we put the pillows and straw and all sort of stuff. And I leave it out. I leave the lid open overnight. And then it's when it's pissing rain. And then I've got there in the morning, I'm like, oh, crap. Everything's soaking. Everything's wet. And it shouldn't really bother me. But I know why I did that. And back in the day, before I knew I had a neurodivergent brain, I used to be like, right, okay, it's just a mistake. But now I know what it is. It adds more weight onto this process I'm going through at the moment. But then when someone else adds that on top, it's really hard to sort of put that under the carpet and go, okay, that's their view. This is my view. You've got two views going on at the same time. And, it's really hard. There's also a sense when you go out as a musician and you go and team up with other musicians, whether that is at a show or that is, at university or in education. There was a sense that I always felt like a failure, and I always felt that I was not good enough. And if you've got all those feelings, that self-doubt already, any tiny minor thing, someone could comment on my hair, or someone could comment on my clothes, or whatever it is. And because I tightened up so much and I was twisting inside, anyone that lets out something on top of it, it's really, really hard. And I found out recently, not only if you've got neurodivergent brain and you may, I've gone through trauma. I also found out recently, people with red hair, they have high sensitivity. And I was like, oh my goodness, right, okay, that's another thing. And again, what I'm not trying to do is diagnose, and I'm trying to dissect myself. I'm just trying to be more aware of it. And some people will say to me, oh, don't go into that too much, and don't do that too much. And that's subjective comments. I will learn what I need to learn about myself, because for 39 years, I've been going along this track, and it's just been really complex. And the reason why I've not been able to build momentum is because I've been doing that thing when people say to me, don't do this, don't do that. And I've been listening to them. But now I'm starting to listen to my own intuition and my own self, and I need to unlock my own internal process. But I think rejection sensitive dysphoria, it's massive in the music industry. You get things like Britain's Got Talent, and you've got The Voice, and you've got all these other things. It's like you're throwing yourself into the lion pit, and, you've got a 50-50 chance of getting a positive comment and a negative comment. And for me to put myself in that situation, it could crush my whole music journey and music career for life. And I know people who've gone into it and then they've come out of it and they've never mentioned it again. And it feels like they've put a stain on that side of their lives. And it's promoted so much that it's like an easy ticket to the top. And you've got to grind. You've got to work on it all the time. And the hardest thing is when you have so many people coming in with their opinions, so many people coming in with their views and whatever it is. And sometimes it's not factual. So again, it will be subjective. So that's the angle I'm trying to look at it sometimes. When someone makes a criticism of me, I try and go, it's fine. It's subjective. That's their subjective view. And I think the best thing is to actually look at that person. And I feel sorry for that person now, that they have to critique in that way, or they have to express in that way negatively, because there's obviously something going on. And I've been at school and I've been teaching, and I've mentioned this before, and I come out of the classroom and there's those children there sitting on tables, and you kind of, they might have come across as naughty, but actually they've got something else going on, and they probably feel rejected because they've been flung out of the classroom and they're not with other people. And there might be stuff going on at home. So they might feel rejected at home. They might feel rejected by their friends, by the teachers and things. And, you know, again, that's my own subjective thought about it because I can see it. And I'm trying not to put my own opinions and thoughts onto other people. I try not to criticize people. The only time I ever criticize someone is for criticizing me. So my critique will be, why are you criticizing me in that way? You know, like all the blood, sweat and tears that has been poured into this, you know, I'm not looking for a compliment, but what I'm not looking for is negativity. And I think that's where I can start to shift, because, you know, maybe I'm around the wrong people and I just need to be with more positive people, more empathetic people. And things that I've done or things I've said and things, you know, sometimes you can't go back, but they can't haunt me forever either. And the problem is with the neurodivergent brain, sometimes it's so photographic that you've got things that happened in the past and it just keeps playing on repeat over and over and over and over again. But, you know, I've had negative reviews. I've had failed auditions, failed competitions. I've had gigs cancelled. You know, I've got a gig at the moment I'm trying to sell tickets for, and it's happened 2 or 3 times in 2023. And I'm just fed up with ticketed gigs. I get it. I know why, because, you know, venues rely on the artist to generate the tickets, and that's how it works. But in other countries I've been to, like Italy, and I've been up to Scotland, I've been up to different places, they have pulled in all the people. So I turn up as the musician, because when I'm made to go and sell tickets, and this will obviously depend on my presence and things, that means that I'm the businessman and I am not the musician. And I know how it works. And that's where I'm kind of fed up with it. And I've gone back into events with covers and stuff as well, because the crowd is there for one. You turn up, you play, that is your job. And then you get paid and all sorts of other stuff. And you have a great day, and you're not worrying about that ticketed thing all the time. Ticketed gigs for neurodivergent musicians who don't have management, who don't have a support network around, is hell. It's utter hell, because it can chew you up. Because if you don't sell out your tickets, you just feel like a failure. And if you only sell a few, that's even worse. So I am hitting that point where I don't think I'm going to be doing ticketed gigs for much longer. Maybe it happen in the future. Maybe this podcast will blow up and I'll be able to get more people at a gig. I don't know. But I think the other avenues, you know, this podcast has given me so much to be able to just talk about and just be able to waffle. Whereas when I go to a show, I love performing. I just don't like the bullshit before and after. And the before is selling tickets, trying to get people in the door, having to navigate, you know, traveling, going to a green room, speaking to everybody, all the sort of sensory overload, the social overload, playing the show for 1 hour, because that's the stage is the safe space. And that's what we were mentioning with John Gombe, you know, in his session. But then afterwards, you're so exhausted and you've got to drive home. And that is the life of an independent musician. And it's not negative. I'm not trying to go, oh, woe is me, all this stuff. There's a realization. And if maybe this is like a over the hill moment in regards to that sort of music performance, I won't stop creating music. But I just, you know, unless I'm invited, which I have been before, I've been invited to shows. I've been invited over to France, and they naturally pull in all the people to the gigs. You know, you don't have to do that side of it. And that is a major weakness. It's like in my teaching side of it. I no longer do, get the students or the invoicing or the timetable, and same with my entertainment sort of stuff of it. I no longer have to get the clients or do the contract or the invoice. I turn up and do what my job is. And my job, I just don't want my job to be that business stuff, because the rejection, the RSD, the neurodivergence is just so hard. So, trying to find a support network is massive in this. And I do like going on Zoom these days. Not a lot of musicians do. I do like going out. I do like performing. And I do love it when family and friends turn up. But there's the sense of that as well. I sort of feel that, even some family and friends have just like forgotten now. And it's almost like, oh yeah, you're closing in on 40 now. Maybe put the pipe dream away and just focus on real life. And then real life is, if you put it like that and you go to 9 to 5 and you grind, it is boring. It is, I don't want to look back when I'm 80 and then go, that's what I did at that point in my life. I remember speaking to an old guy when I went to a gig, and he said he went into finance and he was working 9 to 5, and he regrets it, massively regrets not keeping up his music career. And the hardest thing is when money starts to kick in, and obviously responsibilities. Anyway, that's a massive waffle, but RSD can amplify those difficulties. It really makes it hard, and those feelings of worthlessness and despair, they can just trigger into anxiety, and then all the other stuff, the depression, the trauma, can really start to kick in. And obviously, I'm beating myself up inside. There's negative thoughts. And as much as people say, don't do that, be mindful, go and do mindfulness, go and do meditation and blah, 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 blah. Having neurodivergent brain, you sometimes can't do meditation because your brain's just flickering all over the place. And then I've found out about cognitive fatigue recently. So my head's running on a motor all day, and then it just burns out. So anything anyone can say, whether it's my children, whether it's my wife, whether it's my friends, whether it's family, they can say something. Like, there's one triggering phrase that I don't like, is when you're doing something well, you are lucky. And when you're not doing something well, oh, it wasn't meant to be. And it's like those throwaway phrases where when you hit the bottom, it's just like, oh, it wasn't meant to be. Come with us now back into this boring life. Or when you're like high and you're like, oh, you've started to achieve your dreams. You're just like, oh, you're so lucky. It's just like, wow, is that the definition? Is that the markers that you hit? And it's not, luck. Yeah, you could be lucky, but I think that comes out of immense hard work, and then the opportunity comes in after all that hard work. But anyway, those kind of quotes can sometimes feel like rejection and failure. But what I know I will do is, if I feel like that, I dust myself off and then I go again the next day. And I'm not stopping my music career. I'm carrying it on. I've still got a new album I'm working on. Obviously the podcast, I've still got my courses and I'm still unlocking that. But I think, I've got the resilience and the tenacity now needs to be working on internally. I think that's where we need to be working on. Fix ourselves internally. We can't fix ourselves completely, but if we can gently, build on the internal stuff, the external stuff will happen naturally. So anyway, that is my convoluted chat about RSD. I'm now going to go into the green section where I'm going to make a recommendation. See you then. Okay, so we are into the green section where I'm going to make a recommendation. And there are lots of different items that you can go and buy. But I think talking about a support network I think the best way to do it is, obviously we can go out, obviously we can go and find things, but that can be really, really hard if, one, you've only sort of entered into this neurodivergent world and you're trying to navigate it. I think the best thing I've done is gone on to Facebook, and then I've gone to find some groups. And it could be ADHD, it could be neurodivergent. I've signed up to lots of different groups, and then I've kind of got a feel. So for like when I ask a question, how responsive it is. If it's just like silent, then it's just like, no, this group is not engaging. If there's lots of likes and hearts or whatever it is, it's like, that's okay, but I'm looking for some answers. But if there's actually active, comments and constructive feedback or whatever it is, then it's a worthwhile group. And I've got a few like ADHD for men, ADHD dads, there's neurodivergent, things, neurodivergent parenting, there is, neurodivergent couples, all sorts of things. And I've just signed up to a load of these, and then you sort of whittle it down and then you can pin your groups. But it really, really is helpful. And then you can start to get to know some of the neurodivergents in there as well. I mean, there's not a neurodivergent musician group yet. John Shortell talked about there's, a hub that they're building. I think they've built, but they're building on in Musicians Union. But it would be nice, and obviously you can join in for the community there. There's got some, they've got some group sessions that they run now and again. But I think, going into a Facebook group is really helpful if you want to ask questions, if you want to join the community and more. So yeah, that is my recommendation for today. If you do suffer from RSD, if you want to know more about it, or if you want to chat to someone, please do contact me on the socials. It's at John Hart Music, or head to my website, johnhartmusic.com. Remember, that's JONHART music.com. Go to the contact page and just pop me an email. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you think about this episode and the podcast as well. And yeah, thank you so much. In the next few episodes, I'm going to start going into deeper, like anxiety, depression, and all the other stuff. It's going to get heavy, but I feel I want to go down that angle, and then I will start to pick it up with more neurodivergent traits as we go along. But this is kind of like a sort of catch-all for everything that I've been going through, and I just want to sort of document the chronicles of this journey I'm on, from undiagnosed to diagnosed, from untreated to treated, and so much more, and connecting with neurodivergence, whether they've got dyslexia, ADHD, autism, whatever it is, and musicians as well. So they don't have to be neurodivergent. It's just people that I've connected with throughout my life. So anyway, I hope you are enjoying this podcast, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Take care.